So for the record, we're talking about our first assignments. We're looking for where we can learn. Do you guys know now that you need to take out spaces between paragraphs if the example your boss gives you has no spaces between the paragraphs? Do you know that a job title before a proper name does not need to be offset by a comma unless it comes after the name, where then it's in a positive? Do you guys understand that? Okay, do you understand that in a straight news story, the lead is a summary lead that contains the essential news elements? You understand that? And that it needs to be less than 50 words? Do you understand that? And do you also understand that if you copy something online and paste it and then turn it in, that you need to face the implications of those kinds of decisions, right? And that should be clear. If I were you, I don't even know necessarily who the person is, but if I were you, I'd go online after I leave this class and start calling the university, looking up what your responsibilities are to see what the hearing process is that you're going to have to go through to defend your right to stay in this university. Okay? Is that all clear? All right, now we go to talk about ethics today, right? Look, what does it profit a man to gain a few points but to lose her soul or his soul?
Also, we want to mention about the back of the AP book has baseball guidelines.
Baseball guidelines at the back of the AP book.
Home run, how to write out 2 runs, home runs, how to spell out 9th inning, or whether you spell out 9th inning or anything like that. So.
Yeah, so the baseball guideline at the back of the book. When in doubt, check the AP book out. How many stories are picked up by the AP every day? Thousands. So if I get a story picked up by the AP, am I the best writer I'm ever going to be? No, probably not. But let's talk about ethics. Can we pull down some of those front lights? Ethics. The thing I'd have you write is, first of all, is to thine own self be true. Everybody know where that's from? To thine own self be true. Come on, somebody knows. Yeah, it's Shakespeare. To thine own self be true. That means be reflective of what you think is right and wrong, and don't abandon it for the sake of the marketplace. Okay? What does it profit a person to gain a big bag of money, but to be able to have trouble sleeping at night or looking themselves in the mirror? That's the key to ethics. Think about what your ethical system is, and then do your best to adhere to it, okay? Now, and what we're doing initially, go ahead, proceed. What we're doing is we're thinking about our Lebensfeld, our life world. What is our life world? It's the culmination of all the experiences that we've had in life. Lebensfeld. It's the word for the day. Life world. I don't know anything beyond my life world. I want everybody to raise your hand on this next question. Is it normal for people to have electricity? If you agree, raise your hand. For all those who disagree that it's normal for people to have electricity, raise your hand. Okay, I saw a lot more for it's normal. Do you know that only about 10% of people in the world have electricity in their houses? Do you realize that? I mean, Maggie, 11, who I hope you're going to meet, she's been to Uganda. And the rich people, they have a front door, but they live in a cinder block building, no windows. They only have to walk 2 miles for quasi-clean water, and they don't have any electricity. Those are the rich people in Uganda that are able to feed their kids. But we don't know that, do we? Because we live in a life world where we have electricity and we take it for granted. I have so much clean water, I can take a shit in it. And most of the world walks miles to get water that they will get worms from, and they'll have those worms all of their life. Do I take it for granted? Because I only know the culmination of my experiences and the socializing factors. And I'm so glad that Maggie went to Uganda, so when she does become Pope, she's going to know the real deal about the world. That's our Lebensfeld. What I need to do is recognize the limitations of my consciousness based on my experiences. Does that make sense? All right. It's life world. It's our perspective. It's our consciousness. It's our collective experience. And it's based on a number of socializing factors. And if you zoom in, Ken, we've already talked about that. My religious beliefs or my spiritual tradition influence my life, my view of the world. My peers influence my view of the world. My experience influence my view of the world. My parents influence my view of the world. And what I need to recognize is I have a limited perspective because where I am, the experiences I've had, okay? So it's important to understand other people have other experiences. And as a reporter, as a writer, as a writer of any kind of convergent media, I need to be ready to walk in somebody else's shoes who I haven't really had the opportunity to walk in. And those people may not own a pair of shoes. We don't know that. We don't realize that. So we're identifying our Lebensfeld, that we live in a limited perspective. Go ahead to the next slide, sir. So ultimately, I want you to go beyond that. We'll go back to this. Objectivity. We need to understand our Lebensfeld because what does Sandman say about objectivity? What's it called, first of all? Go ahead, rock on, Daddy-O.
It's a good goal, or complete objectivity is a good goal, but you'll never really achieve it. Complete
objectivity is a good goal, but we'll never complete it. Okay, then that is from Sandman, and what's it called? Yes, ma'am. You rock. Every day you rock, sister. The dilemma of objectivity. Sandman. And go to the next slide. No, go back. I'm sorry. We'll get to it in a minute. But you guys understand, when it comes to objectivity, I need to recognize that I can't be objective about some things. Nazis. I hate Ku Klux Klan members. I can't be objective about it. I mean, if I got to write an article about the Nazis, I might tell my editor she needs to assign it to somebody else. I mean, or I've got to be willing to go and privilege Nazis and tell us why they're right. No way, okay? I'm sorry, maybe I'm in the long line of work. Oh, man, I got a splitting headache. You know what kind of germs are shared in prison? I don't know, but I got some of them. So stay away from me. Okay, so we understand this it's very important that I recognize my worldview is situated, right? Right. Okay, great. Now, overall, I want to go back. Yeah, back. That's right. Buddha once said, if you want to be treated a certain way, treat other people that way. It says in the Quran, if you like to be treated in a way, then you should treat all strangers that way. Okay? And then there was another guy, a Jewish guy, that said this. He was executed. Maybe it was death penalty that was uncalled for. What was? Oh, yeah. Jesus. But this is a good rule. And I've suggested this. Do you want, if your sibling dies in a fire, in an auto accident, do you want a reporter to run up and say to your mom, your son has died? How does that make you feel? Do you want that? Well, then don't do it to other people. If you got a sick, I had an aunt that had schizophrenia, and if she's about to jump off the bridge, I don't know. I mean, you guys got to judge for yourself. You got to judge for yourself. Ethics, you got to judge for yourself. I would hope, rather than take the picture of my aunt getting ready to jump off the bridge, the photographer go up and say, I got Path on the phone. Maybe you should talk to him. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Maybe you should change your mind. Yeah, I'm talking about the ant,
yeah. Talking about the ant, yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Now, you guys may decide. There's a classic picture of it was in Ethiopia, and it's got a little kid, and the kid's probably 5, but they look like they're 2. Excellent. Well, there you go. Should he have shared his sandwich with the kid? What about all the hundreds of kids that were right out of the frame? I don't know. You see what I'm saying? When it comes to ethics, I don't know. But what I will ask you is, think about what you believe and follow that. There's a little spark inside of us. Martin Luther King said it was a divinity. We'll call it conscience. Follow it when it comes to reporting. And some of it is about this idea You know, Kant called it this categorical imperative, to think about the other people in the situation and give them the respect that you yourself would want. Okay, does that make sense? I mean, I can't say anything more than that. I can't say what's right or wrong for you, but I would ask you to be introspective about it, okay? All right, so ethics, let's go forward. Objectivity, we know it's a tough dilemma. We've already talked about structuration. Whose theory is it? Raise your hand. It's on the first test. Whose theory is this? It's in the book. Whose theory is this? Starts with a G, ends with Giddens. You rock. Thank you. Giddens structuration theory. Does a kid body slam his little niece and paralyze her because he saw it on TV? Or do the wrestlers do it because little kids are doing it to each other? I don't know. I would suggest that both are true, right? That NWA or Tupac was talking about what's on the street, but he also influences the white suburban kid who's like, you know, thinks he's a thug, you know. So culture, media reflects society, but it also contributes to society. Do you understand that? Raise your hand if you understand this theory. Raise your hand if you do not. Raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand. Come on in for the big win, man. Really. Participate. I'm sorry. I don't mean to pick on him. I'm sorry. I apologize. Don't raise your hand. So you guys understand, I'm going to take that we understand this theory. Let's go to the next thing, the next idea. Now, I will say that means you have a responsibility as a writer to reflect what's in the world, to recognize, though, you influence kids when you write for the media, okay? If you're always writing stories about somebody getting murdered, you're scaring the little old lady in her house. Occasionally, you do a story about how a neighborhood watch has made a neighborhood better, right? If it bleeds, it leads. Well, we can buck that trend a little bit. It's called social responsible media. Let's focus on what's good is going on in the community, not just always about the negative. You see what I'm saying? Writing is about making what? Choices. And so sometimes you're going to talk about the positive. You don't always have to focus on the negative. Now, there's Sandman's dilemma of objectivity. You should know that like the back of your hand at this point. Yes, Ida. I can't hear you. It's impossible, but it's a great goal, right? So what we need to do is seek out alternatives that differ from ours, and that leads to the idea of synthesis. I just said it. Sure, objectivity is possible, but it's a good goal. Go back, there you go. Staying unbiased is lacking objectivity good. It's just natural, right? I mean, the Arizona cops gave me a big fat ticket for going 10 miles over the speed limit. Luckily, I could take a driving class, so I might have a little prejudice against Arizona policemen. Although at the very end, I did say I very much respect the senator from your state, John McCain. He's an American hero. Didn't take away the ticket. But maybe I have prejudices, you know what I mean? And I need to recognize it. Then I need to commit myself to the dialectic process, not just as a reporter. Look, you know, and again, and I've already talked about this, haven't I? I may be anti-abortion, okay? Maybe. I might be anti-abortion. If I am, I need to seek out some people that are pro-choice and give them as much time, if not more time, in my article. Do you guys understand that? If I am pro-choice, I need to seek out some people that are pro-life and privilege them maybe a little, knowing that I have a predisposition. I mean, you guys know, man, I made a documentary guy that was on death row, and there were no witnesses and no evidence against this guy. All three witnesses said I lied on him. Two of them because they were getting raped every day, and the official said, hey, we will make it so you're not sold for cigarettes every day if you say Joe did it. The third guy probably committed the crime. I mean, he pretty much told me that. And even he changed his mind. So there were no evidence, no witness against the guy. Missouri was going to use my money to kill him. Well, whether you're for or against the death penalty, I was at the McVeigh execution, and I wasn't too sad. You know what I mean? You know who Timothy McVeigh is? The guy that blew up the kids in Oklahoma City. Was I really sad when Obama told me they shot bin Laden? No, I wasn't too sad. Okay? But whether you're for or against death penalty, nobody wants your money being used to kill somebody that's not guilty. So what did I do? Did I find everybody that agreed with me? No. For 5 months, you know what I wanted? Somebody that would tell me why I was wrong. Who would I go to tell me what I was wrong, how I was wrong? Raise your hand. Yes. Yeah, the judge originally in the case, definitely. Who else? The prosecuting attorney, Judge Brown. I went to him. Explain to me why, Joe, I'm wrong. Why is Joe guilty? Explain it to me. Right? That's what. Okay, the Attorney General of Missouri was asking the Supreme Court, let's do this. Let's kill Joe. So where else would I go? Come on, I just said it. Raise your hand. Yes? Yeah, the Attorney General of Missouri. Explain to me, what is the evidence? What is the witnesses? Well, the court president, he's had his appeals, and procedurally, he needs to be executed. No, we're not communicating, man. Who says he's guilty? Well, the decision as it stands procedurally still holds weight. No. What's the evidence against him? What's the shred of him? The courts have looked at this case and decided that, man, I'm not communicating with you, okay? And then I went to the sheriff. He was the prosecuting guy. He's the guy that went to the guys that were getting raped every day and shut off the tape recorder and said, man, look, I know you're getting raped. You want protection? Say Joe did it. Well, what would you do? Oh, yeah, man, I was here. Joe did it. Here, let me turn back on the recorder, right? Well, I wanted to talk to that sheriff about that. Didn't I? To talk to the sheriff about it? I camped outside his office for days. We're here. Yeah, we know you're here, that secretary. Oh, my God. Sorry, I just used somebody's Lord's name in vain, but, well, mine maybe too, but we'll stay off the record on that. He knows you're here. Aren't you one of those little students doing that little student film? He's really busy today. I sat there all day. Oh, I forgot to tell you, he left 3 hours ago. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be back tomorrow. Tell the sheriff I'll be ready to hear his side of the story. Sheriff Brooks would never talk to me. And 2 weeks after Joe walked out of prison, Joe filed charges against the sheriff for wrongful imprisonment. You know what the sheriff did? Blew his brains out. I gave him the opportunity to tell his side of the story. I wanted it. I needed it. Because I was seeking what? The antithesis. Do you guys get this? It's basic persuasion. You're not going to persuade people if you only tell them your side. You need to tell them both sides and let them decide. Is that example a good, you see what I'm saying? If I'm going to I can't be objective because, man, I don't see any evidence or witnesses against Joe. I need to find the people that will set me straight, the people on the other side. I wanted to fly in the ointment, man. I wanted to not have to make that documentary. I mean, my dissertation advisor wanted to see me cry because I was working on that when I was supposed to be finishing my PhD. I gave it to her. She was happy, that sadistic smirk. Yeah, he's crying. We'll let him defend in May. Anyways, I digress. I didn't want to make the documentary, guys. I did not want to have to do it. You see what I'm saying? A burden. But to that my own self be true. How can I look in the mirror knowing that I'm the only guy that can make this doc and they're going to execute somebody? How can I walk away? So I didn't want to do it. It was a curse. I wanted somebody to tell me why I was wrong, that Joe was guilty. So I didn't have to make the dang thing. So I sought out the counterfactual. Ida? You got to speak louder because he can't hear you and he can't hear you and he can't hear you. I can't hear you, Ida.
Multiple perspectives dealing with Rashomon.
Rashomon effect. Very good, Ida. Excellent point. Yes, there's multiple perspectives. We all look at the situation differently. We want to walk in the shoes of people that do see it differently, right? Absolutely. Very good point. And that's the bottom line. Yes.
The guy over here.
Yes.
Just a quick loose end question about your story. Did the sheriff blow his own brains out, or Joe?
Oh, no, that's great. No, he blew his own brains out. He sat in his office, pulled his gun out once he got the papers where Joe was suing him for wrongful imprisonment. There's a newspaper there with Joe released, files charges against for false imprisonment. He got the lawsuit against him, pulled out his pistol, blew his brains out. Yeah, kind of Shawshank Redemption style. What was the last thing that went through his mind? A bullet, right? I don't know, man. But yeah. So, but I tried to get his perspective. I begged it. I sat in his office for days, literally, from 9 to 5. I wanted the other perspective. I was committed to the synthesis. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? Do I make myself clear on this? Why this is important? And it's not as important as a reporter. It's us as a thinker. You changed my mind. Please. I'm ready. And we've already talked about this. Is a good conversation one where you and the person you talk to already made your mind and you're just screaming at each other? Is that a conversation? It's not. Conversation was when two people share and are both willing to grow a little bit. That's what liberal arts education is all about. Do you think I know everything? I have 6 degrees. Do I know everything? No, I don't. I'm ready to learn. Teach me. Just like you know what I mean? And when we're committed to that, we're committed to dialectic as a way of life, okay? And that's bigger than just discussion, objectivity, and reporting. But you guys get this? This is our way that we do our best to try to be objective, even though it's an impossible goal, okay? I mean, are you objective? You don't care whether it's American soldiers or foreign soldiers that are killed? I think that you protest too much. I'm sorry, fair and balanced, fair and balanced, fair and balanced. Fox is fair and balanced, fair and balanced. You know, when I'm talking to somebody and they go, I'm not lying, I promise I'm not lying. You know what I start to think? Yeah, are you really fair and balanced? Do they think they are? Do they go, well, 3 Americans died and 3 Taliban died and we're sorry both sides died? Are they fair and balanced about American servicemen and foreign fighters? Are they fair and balanced about that? Are they objective that an American life is worth a Taliban life? Are they really? Pull this down. Stop. Get this out of there, man. Are they? I mean, they sued the senator from Minnesota, Franken, for using fair and balanced on his book. Either they were suing him for copyright infringement or stealing their joke. Are they fair and balanced? Really? I've never seen them fair and balanced about anything. No, that's not true. I watch Fox News and I appreciate it. But do you think that O'Reilly said, oh, the 19 guys that ran these things into the Twin Towers, I feel sorry for their families? Do you think they said that? Do you think that he thinks their lives are worth the same as Americans that died in the Twin Towers? Well, that's subjective. I don't know. You get my point? I mean, I like to watch Fox News. I like a lot of stuff on Fox News. MSNBC, man, you think, what's his name? The top 20, is it Oberlin? What's his name? What? Is he fair and balanced? ESPN? Well, it's glad he's not on news because what he did wasn't news. It was liberal ranting. I mean, do you think that Michael Moore, you know, the fat guy that never lets the truth get in the way of a good joke, is objective? He's not objective. He's got an agenda, right?
He's also a very clever guy in general. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, he makes documentaries and then he makes hundreds of $1 millions and buys Manhattan real estate. He's a clever guy. Yeah, right? And then he acts like I'm working class. Yep. Right, sure. Matter of fact, he profited hundreds of millions of dollars off of 9/11. Good job. It's like guys that make millions of dollars singing about how much they love their country, or anyways, singing about how much they love their God. Michael Smith, $35 million last year from his tour. Who wrote A Purpose-Driven Life? Nobody knows? Saddleback Church, he did the invocation at Obama's inauguration. He said the prayer. Can't remember his name. He gives 95% to charity, which is so cool, you know? Yeah, Rick Warren. I don't know about Michael Moore. I know that he spent $120 million to buy a building in Manhattan. I digress, okay? Who's fair and balanced? I don't know. I'm not. Was your story about, have you ever been in Chicago and heard somebody, a sportscaster that was fair and balanced? Well, Philadelphia won over the Bears, but oh well, that's cool. You know what I mean? Are sports coverage in Chicago ever objective? I mean, they kind of want the Sox or the Cubs to win, right? And I guess we got to take that, but let's at least recognize, well, in sports, we're really kind of not going to be objective. You know what I mean? What's the guy's name? Bartman, Steve Bartman? Yeah, the Chicago media was real objective about Bartman, weren't they? The Sun-Times published his address. Hate to see the things that were in his front yard the next day. You guys, how many people know Steve Bartman? I digress. Anyways, fair and balanced. It's a good goal. Commit yourself to dialectic, okay? Now I want to talk about treating people that are of some subgroups. Ethnic subgroups, differently capable, whatnot. You know, I mean, I guess I talked about my aunt with schizophrenia. You know, the bottom line is we shouldn't cover people like that differently than we'd cover other people, or we shouldn't refer to them as they're special. I mean, would it surprise you I got ADHD? My boy has ADHD. I'm differently enabled, right? Just as other people are differently enabled. You don't have to say it in a story about me unless it's relevant, okay? So mention a group identity only if it's relevant. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're going to write an article about me or me being involved in the inauguration, or, you know, going to LA or whatever, you don't have to say I'm ADHD. You get it? It's not important to the story. Likewise, if someone's sexual identity isn't relevant to the story, we don't mention it. If their ethnic background, whether they're Hispanic, if they're Black American, if they're Shanty Irish like my people, if it's not relevant to the story, don't mention it. If they, you know, if they lost one leg to cancer as a little baby, if it's not important to the story, you don't put it in there. Do you understand? Because we all got her in it. So mention the group only if it's relevant. That's on the test. So nudge her. Will you nudge her, Ida? Or no, that's Ida. Nudge her. What did I just say? Huh? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What's on the test? Give her a high five or something from me. Good job. Yeah. Only mention if it's relevant. You guys understand? Don't act surprised that old people still have sex. Don't act surprised if somebody that's over 65 can run the Ironman. You know what I mean? And be surprised. You see what I'm saying? Just treat other people like you'd want to be treated, right? Like Buddha said, it's in the Quran. Islam says treat other people like you'd want to be treated, right? And we all have our own differences. What is a minority? I mean, we don't even know what that means anymore, do we? White males are the minority in this nation. People of color, women, all those people, there's way more of people of color and women than there are white males. So what's a minority? Even using the word minority. The key here is, avoid gender-specific words, and I do my best. It's police officer, isn't it? Right? And when you turn in your editor, I do my best to throw in as many she's as I do he's. You know what I mean? We don't want to, the boss the publishers, you don't use gender-specific language, you mix it up. right? To avoid supporting stereotypes. When you're thinking about how do I refer to a member of the group, what should you do? Melissa? Is it Melissa? Yeah, what would you do? Yeah, how do you decide how to refer to a member of a group? Like if it is relevant, what? Go ahead. What?
Say like that person.
Yeah.
Just make it generalized.
Yeah. If it's important to the story and you're going to refer to the thing that sets them apart, how are you going to decide what words to use? It's on the bottom. Just read off the bottom. Ask the group member why they want to be referred to. Does that make sense? I mean, if I'm writing a story about something and somebody's an archer and they're visually impaired, but they were able to, then it's kind of relevant that I think it's relevant to a story of an archer who can get a bullseye but is visually impaired. What do I say? Do I say visually impaired? Do I say blind? Do I say, go ahead.
I just have a question. If like a senator, he's openly homosexual and he's like supporting a pride,
Then it could be important. If they embrace that lifestyle, it could be important. But maybe it's not. Do you say that I'm heterosexual and I'm supporting their right to have the march?
maybe
Do you? How do you know what I do in my bedroom?
openly heterosexual male.
Hey, I said Brad Pitt, man. He's got those abs. Don't make any presumptions about what I do. No, I mean, I don't know if it's. What do you think? Go ahead. Okay, yes, sir. Well, it's not descriptive, is it? If you want to say they walk with their pinkies up, or I'm sorry, just go beyond the Cavalera. Describe it and let us decide for ourselves. Boxes aren't descriptive, you know. There, I like that. Very good. But if they're discussing about whether to have a little privacy in the room, the dressing room or not, maybe it's important. I don't know. I mean, I didn't even know this person. Is this what you said true? Oh, okay. And how do we know? Yeah, how do we know? So I don't know. You're going to have to thine own self be true. If you think it's relevant, then use it. Because I can't decide for you. Welcome to ethics, guys. I don't know. If you think it's okay to say it, then say it. You know? I'd prefer you say, Mikhail, a man comfortable with his feminine side, supports the right for gays to parade about. No, man, I'm comfortable with my feminine side. So I don't know, I don't know if it's relevant or not. You got to decide, okay? But the key is, how do I want them to be described? Now, in our interview, if they say, well, as, oh man, we're in dicey territory here. If the person says they live an alternate sexual lifestyle, ask them if they want it, they think it should be in the paper, and then ask them to say what it is. If they're transgendered, or if they're homosexual, or if they're bisexual, or whatever. You know what I mean? Just have a lot of respect, okay? Like you would want. And all of us have somebody in our family that lives alternative lifestyle, probably, right? I mean, and if we don't know that they do, they may do, and they don't say it because they're embarrassed because it's cultural stereotypes. So ask the group member. Your question was descriptive. I think Joe had a good answer for you. Is it relevant to the story? Go ahead. Yeah. Well, and writing a script, it may be important. But when I talk about Colin Powell, he was a great leader. That should be more important. And I don't know, again, where are the boundaries? What did you just say? You want to know what color they are? Well, it's all a different shade. I mean, I don't even know. Overall, because of all my freckles, I'm darker, but on average, you look darker. I mean, I think we got a shade of it going on. Lucy was found in Ethiopia and she was 3.5 million years ago. Now, I don't mean to step on anybody that thinks that the world is 4,000 years old and that's all a Satan trick to confuse us. But by the same token, it seems like the archaeologist says we all started as dark-skinned. And then some of us stumbled up north where most of the time we were huddled by a fire inside and the melanin in our skin was decreased because we were inside and we didn't need melanin to protect us from the damage of the sun. Do you see what I'm saying? My kids are a 16th Choctaw Indian. Tell me what they are.
Yeah, but
Are they black?
that's not the
Are they colored? Okay, what is the question? I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Your question is awesome, my friend.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put in a different perspective. Just saying, like,
You're supposed to write objectively, right?
Yes. Well,
While you're telling all those other things, you're giving the calmness to be subject, and you're giving people to be.
hey, man, listen. These guys got a great discussion going back on. And you know what? I respect your decision as long as you're careful about it, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I do. What's your name? I respect it, Nick. Okay, you make that call. And Joe, I respect your perspective. You make that call, but be careful when you make the call. You know what I mean? Does that help? I mean, are you going to call my kids Injuns because they're 16th Choctaw? They look like two little Swedes, and that's just because the Vikings had girlfriends in Ireland, you know? That's the way you take over somebody, is you have girlfriends there, right? Anyways, ethics isn't clear cut, okay? Go to the next thing. Ethics and it's like jumbo shrimp. I saw this ad over the weekend where Satan is talking to this guy. He's like, man, I can give you this Mercedes. Yeah, and it was William Dafoe playing Satan. I can give you the Mercedes. Just sign here. And the guys are outside putting a sign up for the Mercedes. And then they get $29,998. And the guy's like, I don't need you, but thanks. And pushes because he can afford it. And then in the meantime, I'm going, I can afford a Mercedes. Yeah, I'll be less able to pay my kids' college. I'll be more in debt. It'll be harder to pay my property taxes. I'll make it so I can't do as many things with my children. But yeah, ethics and advertising. You know, it's just cool that if you drink a lot of beer, you hang out with supermodels. Isn't that cool? You got guys that are fat like me, drinking Bud Light, and they're surrounded by beautiful women. Do I make my point? I love the Smirnoff Ice commercial where the guy's in the phone booth. It's raining. He's got two drenched supermodels with him. Man, I need to get me a plastic bag and drink more Smirnoff. We've talked about this. Read the book. What is Marcuse? What did he say mass media does? Raise your hand. Come on. Come up to the big ring. What did Marcuse from the Frankfurt School say mass media does? God damn it. Yes. It influences the action of people. Does artificial need ring a bell? What is that? This is on the test. Marcuse from the Frankfurt School said if the Nazis can convince you to become a Nazi, then advertisers can convince you that if you use proactive, that you'll get rid of your blemishes and you can be as lovely as Jennifer Love Hewitt as well. Okay? Artificial need. Write it down. Marcuse, artificial need. Don't let them scam you. Ida. Want does not equal need, but all of the mass media business is trying to convince you that you need it. I need a new car, man. They're trying to convince me of that when really I just want a new car. The 2007 Prius, it's a classic, like the 1964 and a half Mustang. I'm fine with it. Let's talk about legality on Wednesday. Is that cool? Yes.